Um, this is Jill. I'm back today for the second week of Family Friday, is what I'm dubbing this, um, where we're focusing on family. And we're focusing specifically today on the Invincible Family Project. I'm here with Teresa Sanderson. um, And so we're going to talk a little bit about this project. As you know, if you've been tuning in at all, the whole premise for what I do and why I'm going live is just to share pieces of my story in hopes that it will inspire other people. And, my, I guess, ups and downs of staying out of that Groundhog Day monotonous kind of life and continuing to create a life that I love for my kids and with my kids. And the Invincible Family Project is actually a big piece of that. And what I'm doing is just bringing in some of the other amazing authors that I've been fortunate to meet and be around. With this project, there's actually 27 of us, which is really kind of pretty amazing, right? And so everyone has a different story and a different piece of why the Invincible Family Project is important to them and why they're sharing these pieces to help create hope and things in the world. So, Teresa, I don't know if you want to start and just share maybe a little piece about you so people get to know you a little bit.
Sure. Well, and thank you, first of all, for having me. It's just exciting to be here in your space and connecting with your audience. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Jill. I totally appreciate it. I'm Teresa Sanderson. I'm a 30-year registered nurse, and I'm an entrepreneur. In my history, my husband and I have owned a hospice agency. We've owned a couple of aging care homes. And I also crashed and burned with major depression in 2010. So that's a really big part of my story, that I couldn't work for 3 years. From 2011 to 2014, I was just completely out of the workforce, never knew if I would come back to work again. And so the insight I bring to the table as a nurse is that as a 30-year RN, I know that nurses have been struggling long before the days of the pandemic, long before the pandemic ever happened. Nurses were experiencing chronic staffing shortages. They were experiencing extreme stress in the workplace, overworked, underappreciated, all of this kind of thing. And with a tendency to just burn the candle at both ends so that we didn't let our team down, we didn't let our coworkers down, heaven forbid we let the patients down. And so my life is it was kind of the culmination of all of that, I think, for me, when I crashed and burned with major depression and suddenly couldn't get out of bed anymore. And really, that's kind of where my story began, because it's interesting that it began there, because it's where one chapter very clearly ended. Yeah. When that happened to me, we lost our businesses. Our hospice that had been worth millions, we sold for pennies on the dollar. The same with our aging care homes. We ended up with almost $1 million in debt. And I couldn't work. And so what do you do, right? And that's kind of where it all started, for sure.
Oh, I got the chills when you said that, because I feel like whether you're a nurse or not, so many people can relate to that piece, the depression. And I just love the fact that you share that, that's such a big piece of your story, and that you're, you're sharing the vulnerable piece, the piece of like being in that tough space and having that 3 years, and what it, the impact that it had on your life.
Yeah.
But yet now you're obviously not in that space anymore.
No,
right?
thank God.
And I think that really speaks to the hope, right? Because obviously now in the days of the pandemic, mental health is becoming a little bit more talked about. I still think there's way more room for that to grow. But because we're seeing that, and it may not be more often, but now it's being more visible.
More pronounced, for sure.
More pronounced, yeah. But it's been around. I mean, I've definitely suffered from depression, not to that point, but it's been almost to
Yeah.
that point, like to the point where I was like,
Mhm.
I wish they would fire me so I didn't have to go to work and I could just
Exactly.
all day, right? So I think a
Exactly.
lot of people have been in that space before.
Mhm.
So I just love that you share that openly.
Oh, I appreciate that, and even that was quite a journey because trust me, when this first happened and, our businesses were failing and I knew the trajectory that things were on, it wasn't good when I couldn't get out of bed until noon every day. It wasn't optimal for sure. But I knew I needed help. I knew enough, thank goodness, to know that I really needed help and that I was very, very sick. And I was willing to get treatment, but I wanted total anonymity. And so that meant my husband drove me 90 minutes each way to a psychiatrist and therapist in Kansas City because I just thought, if anybody in my local medical community knows this about me, I will never work again. There is, the stigma scared me to death. And anymore, though, I am very open about it because I think people need to know what depression looks like. It looks like me, it looks like you, it looks like people who are smiling every day and appear not to have a care in the world are probably the ones that have depression.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important for people to know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. So, I mean, that's just a piece of your story that I totally love. And I know that
Well,
you're
thank
really
you.
helping a broad range of people, but obviously nurses are
Mhm.
kind of your jam, right?
Yeah.
I totally get that.
They're my
And
people.
your people, and I always said, so I went to a college that was very big as a nursing school. So I was the one business major of all my girlfriends. They were all nursing majors. So I was around
Love
nurses
it.
for so long and they would share all their stories. And I was always like, I don't know how you do what you do. I, I give you all the props,
Oh, man.
it's just amazing what they do. And my daughter's now thinking about getting into the medical field. She's only 12.
Oh my
She wants to
gosh.
be a doctor, but I said, you might be a really good nurse because nurses are the ones that really are the ones that care for the people, right?
Very true.
But there
Very
is a lot
true.
of pressure, so I get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
For
So
sure.
you were in that space, and I think this speaks to the project itself. Like the part of the title
Mhm.
is everyday families creating hope for their future.
Mhm.
So you may not have during that 3 years have had a total amount of hope, but you had to have had some hope, right? If you were going to
Mhm.
get treatment and things, right?
Yeah, and I think there were a lot of really big challenges during that time, and I just remember, my care was fragmented. That's another problem with the healthcare system, right? Is that you see one person today, and then, I just got to know one psychiatrist, had one visit with the guy, and the next time I came back, I saw somebody else. And I
Mm,
thought, I got to tell my whole story all over again. And that was a painful story to tell, to walk through all of that experience with our businesses and the friendships that I lost. I mean, I literally, when things were really at their worst with our hospice and we were having to just totally downsize, I remember I had 5 nurses who were dear friends of mine came in and just resigned on the spot. They kind of gave me an ultimatum, and I remember they were angry. They were angry because it was right at about 2008, 2009 when the economy was just in the tank anyway,
mhm.
and so this was a major financial stressor for them that I wasn't able to do anything anymore. But I remember those conversations were just angry teeth. I remember just that's really what I remember of it was just these teeth coming at me. I couldn't even really see their beautiful faces anymore.
Mhm.
And, so it was tough, and then I remember I was just crying for weeks on end, and I remember I talked to my, therapist about it or my psychiatrist, and I said, I'm really just surprised I'm not in the hospital." And she said, "Teresa, do you wanna go?" And that's when I knew I was really, really I was really as sick as I thought I was, And I said, if I'm getting by with the little that you guys are doing for me right now, because they were not aggressive on my medicines, they were not aggressive on anything. And I'm just grateful for the knowledge base that I had as a nurse, because I was able to tell her, if I've gotten through this far on my own at home, I think I can just stay at home, but I need you to get aggressive with my medicines. I need you to turn the heat on here so
Right.
that I can have a whiff of energy, a whiff of positivity in my mentality so that I can keep going forward. Because there was a time that I wasn't safe to be home alone. And while I never had suicidal thoughts, I had terribly intrusive thoughts. And so
Yeah.
when I would get stressed, I would see things like in my mind, just slit wrists and lots of blood and lots of ugliness. Um, and so my husband also didn't work, and he stayed on unemployment. I mean, we were living on $400 a week back then after having had, this major business thing. Um, we were living on next to nothing just so that I could be safe at home. And yeah, brutal. But yes, there's
I mean,
definitely, I
amazing
think,
that you had him, right?
mhm, mhm. And it was a sacrifice. And I think a lot of people truly didn't understand. Depression is the kind of thing that people want to tell you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just get going.
Yeah.
There comes a time when you can't do that anymore, because I am like the ultimate bootstrap gal, I gotta tell you. I have been there, done that. And and then the family second guessing. I know a lot of people probably go through this too, of just, my sister saying, "Hey, it's your thyroid. It's got to be your thyroid." If
Yeah.
I hadn't had all the medical tests already, and if I wasn't a medical professional myself, I might buy into some of these things. But I mean, I literally stepped away from my family and just totally put these boundaries around myself and said, Greg is going to do all of my communicating with you guys for me, because I can't handle these questions. I can't do it. And at that point, everybody in my family started calling Greg, and I said, no. I designated my brother. I said, you're the one who brings all the questions from the family to Greg, because he can't
Yeah.
be on the phone all day with all of you guys. But it was and I think, and that was another thing. My family just didn't know how to interpret all of that, but it was self-preservation, totally.
Well, and it's not for someone else. I mean, I feel this is amazing for you to be sharing these things, because I think there's so many people out there. Ooh, I'm getting the chills as I say this.
Mhm.
So many people out there that just feel shame.
Yeah.
They
Oh.
feel like there's something just wrong with them,
Mhm. You're
right?
not strong enough. You're not
You're
good
not
enough.
strong enough.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I feel
Mhm.
like I went through some postpartum, and I was always like, "Just pull up your," that's like you said,
Mhm.
you just have to keep going, you just gotta
Yep.
keep going,
Yep.
and there was a lot of shame in even thinking about it, never mind, it was
Mhm.
shameful, and the fact that you're able to just put up the boundaries. People are afraid to do that as
Mhm.
well, I feel like,
Mhm.
but,
Yeah.
it's they don't put themselves first. I mean, one of the big things that I talk about is you've got to put yourself first.
Mhm.
People don't realize it. Like, as a mom, as a someone in your family, like, everyone else was coming first.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
burn the candle, like you said at the beginning, nurses burn the candle at both ends
Yeah.
often, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And moms do that, women do that. Like, a lot of people do
Mhm.
that, right? And then you
Teachers, lots of professionals. Mhm.
yes, and then you just burn yourself to the ground, and then you have all these things that
Mhm.
that happen. But it's
Right.
if we can remove the shame, if we can allow people to, and not even allow, but you know,
Mhm.
make people aware that yes, you can set your own boundaries. Don't feel guilty
Right.
or bad about it. Like,
Mhm.
do what works for you.
Right.
You
And
can
and even just to recognize too that, you know, if I were diabetic, I would need to eat a certain diet. I would need to take probably certain medications. I would need to check my blood sugar and have frequent doctor's visits to check in on this thing.
mhm,
Depression is no different. It's just an illness of the brain. But we do this neat little thing in healthcare, and we talk about holistic care. We've talked about this since I began as a nurse 30 years ago. But until a psychiatrist office exists right down the hall from my primary care guy, we are not there. When I have to go to a special clinic for this kind of treatment and really stand out, because this is where I have to go. I mean, the stigma of just being in that parking lot is enough to keep people from going.
Yes, I totally
Brutal.
agree.
Mhm.
And that's what I actually my daughter and I have talked a lot about because she's like, "Mom, I think I might wanna be a psychiatrist and do mental health
Mm.
stuff." And I
Mhm.
said, "Well, why couldn't you think about that at a very holistic level where you can help with a lot of things?" Because we do, like, energy work at our in our home, and we use natural products and oils and all
Mhm.
sorts of things. I'm like, "Think about it in this big
Right.
grand scale of, okay, you can help with mental health and physical health at the same time." Right? Like,
Mhm.
how amazing would that be if we had more of that,
Right. Right.
right? Um,
Exactly.
yeah, that would be just amazing. So
Mhm.
Debbie Sue says, "Great information."
Oh,
So, yeah, I love that.
wonderful.
So just to kind of connect this a little bit with, you talked a little bit about like what life was like, back then, and then
Mhm.
now you're writing in this book, and I know you've had other opportunities, and you're now this author, and you're helping other nurses, and you're, here, obviously not at home sleeping until noon anymore, right?
Right.
But I know it's a lifelong thing, right? I'm sure. But what is life like now, I guess, and what is this project? What does this book mean to you?
Hmm. Well, life now, is exciting. Life now is full of hope, and it's full of, abundance, and I think, to God be the glory for sure, and, because I can do nothing without my creator, but I
Mhm,
think, I have been blessed to be able to step back and be able to tell this story, and now it's not all of my story, it's a part of my story. There was a time in my life when this was all my story,
mhm,
and, I get teary just thinking about that because there is a time that I thought I would never work as a nurse again, and I was tempted to apply for disability. And it was at that point I connected with an awesome, amazing practitioner, and I told her, I said, I don't think I'll ever work as a nurse again. What do I need to do to apply for disability?" And she said, "Teresa, give me 90 days." That was the lifeline I needed at that time, and she got real aggressive with my meds. She made a couple of tweaks, and I was on my way. It was like somebody cut the rope with the weights on my feet, and that was it. And so ever since then, it's been this journey, forward. And so I really feel like, if I can share this story to help anyone else,
mhm.
that's important. But also, I want people to know I'm kind of a poster child for recovery, for, depression recovery. It can happen. It can happen. And it doesn't have to mean that you're totally free of medicine or anything like that. And there is no fault, no harm, no shame in taking medication, right, for depression. There is nothing wrong with that. Some of us need that, just like somebody with high blood pressure needs an antihypertensive medicine, just like a diabetic needs medicine, just like anybody with heart failure needs medicine. So once I was able to accept those things about myself and really move forward, I could continue with the healing. But now I'm at a point that, life is really, really good. I found an awesome, amazing mentor in Martha Craigie, connected with a lot of great women like you, Jill, and just great, positive people who are doing the same thing. We all come, I think, from very difficult spaces, but we've been able to take that and put it in that position of that's just a part of my story. He's not done with me yet. I'm not finished yet. And I think that's what the Invincible Family Project is really all about, is showing people that no matter where you are, this is just where you are right now. It doesn't define who you are, doesn't define where you're going, hardly tells your backstory. You know, that's a thing all by itself. But yeah, so I think that to me is what the Invincible Project, Family Project, is all about. And if I can help other nurses step away from nursing before they have happened to them what happened to me, or if I can just teach them how to care for themselves while they stay in nursing, then I want to do that too. And so that's what I'm all about these days.
I've been getting chills the whole time you've been talking because
Oh,
I think you hit the nail on the head here. We have a group of 27 women who are sharing pieces of their
mhm.
story, right?
Exactly.
And the struggles are only a piece. it's not who you are, right?
Exactly.
You know, where you are is not who you are. Like Amanda, so we got a few ladies, Megan, hey
Oh,
Megan, and
nice.
Debbie's,
Hello.
and Amanda says this is so good. Yes, our past and what we are walking through doesn't define us, it builds us.
Amen.
Ah,
Amen.
oh, yes. I mean, I could like literally talk about this all day. I feel like we really could, but
Yeah.
you really just summarized it so well that
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
this book is a culmination of all in little pieces of our stories.
Right.
And the reason for doing this is to instill that hope so that if there is someone on their couch having a hard time getting up for the day,
Mhm.
or there's someone who is in nursing and is starting to really feel burnt out,
Right.
or there's a mom at home that feels like there's something more that she's meant
Mhm.
to be doing in life, even though she knows being a mom is like so important. But she's hoping to do something else too, and she doesn't
Mhm.
have to feel guilty about it or
Right.
shameful, right? There's
Mhm.
so many different areas of life, and I feel like this book is like instilling that hope that you can live your story and create your story however you'd like to create it. And you
Exactly.
can pull yourself out of wherever you are.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and hopefully, so I don't know, anything else you'd like to share? I feel like you summarized that so well. I was like, mic drop, here we
Uh,
go. Uh,
I am just really, really excited to be at this point in my life where I can pretty much talk about it. I have to say, one thing I've got to throw out there is that the connection with Martha Craigie that I've made within the last year and 2 months, I truly would not be where I'm at were it not for that. And in so many ways, business wise, of course, because she's such a savvy business guru, right?
mhm.
But just the love, the compassion, the empathy, and all of the heart work and mind work that happens in her coaching moved me beyond things that years of talk therapy could never push me through. And so I just, it's definitely a God thing. And I landed where I'm at for a reason with her and with all of you to have this great opportunity. And so now I just, yeah, however I can help people. That's one thing I've always known about myself is that I'm a helper.
Yeah.
So, however I can help, whether it's, if it's with nursing, if it's with continuing ed, if it's with, helping pull somebody out of the depths of depression, then I'm your girl. That's what I want to do. So,
I love that. And I feel like in the community, so the Martha Craigie and what we all call the Marthaverse, right?
Martha Verse.
The Marthaverse is all about that. And I think that's one of the biggest things with her. I was scrolling on Facebook one night and just found her. It was like a Sunday night at like 11 o'clock is like when I found her, right? I think I talk about that a piece of my story in the book. And found her, scrolled her, but there's so much, like you said, it is heart. When you sit with her, she is literally engaged with you
Hmm.
and your
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And she is fully, you know, it is a God thing for sure,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. It
For
is.
sure. And so is every single other person I've met through this community, including yourself.
Mm,
It's all about service and helping others. And the more that we can do ourselves, the more people that we can help, right? Amanda
for
says, yes, the
sure.
Marthaverse is where it's at. Yes, it is. The Marthaverse is where it's at. And Amanda, the failures in the past don't mean I will always fail. There was a lesson to be learned, and that is all.
And that is all.
Yep.
That is all. And I think one of the biggest things that I've gotten since I've been there, I know we need to finish up here, but was that wisdom is being able to look at the experience without the emotion.
Ah, yes.
And so to be able to look at the failure of the hospice, that all the things that happened there, and believe me, I was tied up in the emotion of that, and it was like I would relive it every time I thought about it. Now I
Yes.
can look at it, I can see it for what it was, and only through this work with Martha have I been able to see that the good thing that came out of it, the gold that was left behind, was that I had created a method to grow a hospice to $3 million with just a $6,000 investment. But I couldn't see that gold. I couldn't see what God had left there for me. I couldn't see it all those years because I was wrapped up in the emotion of that time. And so now I have that wisdom. And I just think that is when Martha said to me, and I want this message to go to everybody here, but she looked me dead in the eye a few months ago and she said, it's time for you to take your seat at the table.
Oh,
It's time for everybody here
I
to
just got
take their seat
chills.
at the table. This is it. And this is that call. And that's what Invincible Family Project is all about.
Boom, mic drop. Perfect. It's time for everyone. You're right. Everyone who listens to this, everyone who reads the book, everyone who is even at all connected with us, it's time for everyone to take their seat at the table. I agree.
Amen.
So I have your contact information in the description. Reach out to Teresa if you have any questions or if you'd like to work with her or just get to know her better. She's absolutely amazing. And I know I will see you around the Marthaverse. So.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for joining me
Thank you
today.
so much for this opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Yes.